Ukrainian troops are making
bigger gains in the battlefield with support from their friends. The Netherlands gave Ukraine a big morale boost today. Dutch Defense Minister Kajsa Ollongren
said the Netherlands has authorized
the use of 24 F-16 fighter jets promised to Ukraine to strike targets in Russia. This decision emphasizes that the West is
ready for a serious escalation against Russia.
Ollongren stated that the Netherlands, together with other NATO countries, is ready not only to provide Ukraine with the necessary military equipment, but also to give permission to use it to protect Ukrainian territory and neutralize threats, including on Russian territory. He stressed that this decision was taken in the context of strengthening Ukraine's defense capabilities. It is noteworthy that it is known in advance that the West plans to provide F-16 fighter jets as well as modern weapons of destruction, which poses a very serious threat to Russia. After the Netherlands, there was also good news from Germany. The general in charge of the Special Headquarters for Ukrainian Affairs in the German Defense Ministry has authorized the use of Patriot air defense systems by Ukrainian forces to defeat Russian aviation over Russian territory. This was learned from a message confirming the earlier U.S. authorization for the use of such weapons by Kiev. The general noted that Ukraine has the right to use modern air defense systems provided by Western allies to protect its territory and neutralize threats posed by Russian aviation. Earlier, the United States officially recognized Ukraine's right to use the weapon systems provided, including Patriot systems, to protect its airspace. Representatives of the U.S. administration noted that Ukraine has the right to use these weapons to protect its citizens and territory from attacks. After all this, Ukrainian fighters launched a series of attacks. Over the past 24 hours, the Ukrainian army has launched about 190 strikes using artillery and drones on 8 districts of the Belgorod region. The head of the region, Vyacheslav Gladkov, announced the details immediately after the attacks. According to him, 134 artillery shells were fired, 43 drone strikes were recorded, 13 of which dropped explosives. As a result of shelling and attacks in Gravoronsky, Shebekinsky districts and Korachansky district, 13 civilians were injured. 1 person was killed in Korachansky district. Damage to 40 private households, 6 shops, a gas station, 41 vehicles, and a cell phone tower were identified. The governor reported that a kamikaze drone attacked the village of Borky in Voluysky district, while 17 munitions were fired at the village of Stary in Volokhonovsky district. In Gravoronsky district, 12 munitions were fired, 10 kamikaze drones were used, and 7 explosives were dropped on the towns of Graveron and Sovkhozny, as well as the villages of Bezimeno, Golovchino, Dronovka, and Kozinka. 2 houses, 5 cars, 2 shops and a gas station were damaged. 1 person was moderately injured. In the Belgorod region, 19 kamikaze UAVs were launched at 16 settlements. 2 explosives were dropped from UAVs, and 54 munitions were fired, including multiple launch rocket systems, MLRS. The villages of Grafovka, Kolotilovka, Popovka, and Prilisye in Krasnoyaruzhsky district were fired upon with 12 shells and attacked by 8 drones. Gladkov noted that the air defense system shot down 5 aircraft-type drones in Korachansky and Prokhorovsky districts. In the Shebekinsky district, the Shebekino Multifunctional Automobile Checkpoint, MACP, the cities of Shebekino, the villages of Murom, Voznesenovka, Belyanka, Sarita, and Bolshoye Gorodishche were hit by a kamikaze drone. 3 explosives were dropped from drones, and 31 shells were fired. 9 people were injured as a result of 2 shelling in the Shebekinsky district, 5 were hospitalized. A woman from the village of Voznesenovka is in serious condition. She is in intensive care on a ventilator. These multiple attacks highlight the ongoing tensions in the border regions and the need for increased security measures. The Russians started the day with terrible losses. Significant clashes continued to take place later in the day. Brigade soldiers staged a massive operation in the Kreminna area. The Russian invaders were surprised at night. Azov soldiers smashed the Russian armored convoy with a terrific blow. These moments were recorded by Azov soldiers. The Russians suffered a deep collapse after this heavy attack. The 12th Azov Assault Brigade, holding the front line near the village of Terny in the Donetsk region, repelled the constant attacks of the Russian invaders. The published video shows the destruction of 21 pieces of equipment. In particular, drones neutralized 9 infantry fighting vehicles of various modifications, 2 ARVs, 3 MTLBs, and 3 unidentified tracked vehicles. 5 trucks carrying infantry and ammunition were also hit. The Azov Brigade said that the fighting did not stop at night. The Russian occupiers are trying to carry out offensive actions and logistical operations in the dark of night due to the presence of a large number of Ukrainian UAVs in this sector. Ukrainian National Guard soldiers are able to deter night attacks, especially thanks to night reconnaissance drones and FPV drones with thermal imaging cameras. The village of Terny was almost destroyed by Russian aircraft and artillery. However, its surroundings remain an important strategic point in the defense of Ukrainian forces along the Terny-Yampolivka-Zarichne-Dibrova line. To attack Ukrainian positions, the Russians are carrying out massive offensives with large infantry groups, as well as armored vehicles and aircraft. In particular, the Russian occupiers are actively using guided bombs in the sector. Using its entire arsenal and gathering its reserves, the Russian army is trying to push the Ukrainian army out of the Zherebets River bridgehead and advance towards Lyman. Soldiers of the 1st Presidential Burevy Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine, which holds the front line nearby, said that the fighting in the Kremina forests is particularly focused on attacks on logistics, which will complicate the functioning of enemy forces. Denis Zeleny, officer of the Koriv Battalion's Operational Planning Section, said after the attack, "The enemy controls our movements and transportation, and we control theirs. In the Serebryansky forest, the enemy is focusing on logistical movements by attacking logistical arteries. This creates difficulties in the supply of ammunition and personnel." According to Denis, attempts to influence Ukraine's logistics with artillery remains an important catalyst for constant artillery duels in this region. Ukraine's long-range drones have become a familiar sight in the skies over parts of Russia. Ukraine has targeted Russian oil refineries and ports in its biggest offensive on Russian territory since Vladimir Putin's large-scale invasion 2 years ago. Over the past day, Ukrainian drones struck a refinery and a drone factory in the industrial region of Tatarstan. The Ukrainian spy agency behind these drone strikes has its eyes on another target. Right now, the main target is the 12-mile-long Kerch Bridge linking occupied Crimea to Russia. Senior officials from Ukraine's HUR military intelligence organization claim that the bridge's destruction is inevitable. They say they are planning a third attempt on the bridge after 2 previous attempts to blow it up. For Putin, the bridge is a tangible reminder of what he sees as one of his greatest political achievements. The bridge symbolizes the return of the peninsula to Russia in 2014 using secret Russian troops and a fake referendum. For Kiev, the bridge is also a hated symbol of the Kremlin's illegal annexation. Its destruction would strengthen Ukraine's campaign to liberate Crimea and boost morale on and off the battlefield, where Kiev's forces are slowly being pushed back. It is unclear how any Ukrainian offensive would play out. At the same time, there are serious doubts about whether HUR will be able to carry out a special operation against such a well-defended and obvious target. Russia has taken extensive measures to protect the bridge, strengthen its anti-aircraft defenses, and deploy a target barge as a decoy for incoming guided missiles. HUR thinks it may soon be able to disable the bridge. A Ukrainian official confidently stated, "We will do it in the first half of 2024. Kirilo Budanov, the head of the main intelligence directorate, emphasized that they have most of the necessary tools to realize this goal. He was following a plan approved by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to minimize Russia's naval presence in the Black Sea. Over the past 5 months, Ukraine has sunk 7 landing boats and large ships belonging to Moscow's Black Sea fleet. The last, the Sergei Kotov, capsized in March after a night raid involving 10 Ukrainian Magura V-5 amphibious drones packed with explosives while patrolling south of the Kerch Bridge. HUR officials said it was a shaping operation ahead of another attack on the crossing. The bridge had been hit twice before and repaired. Last July, a 3 a.m. raid by Ukrainian naval drones caused extensive damage to the section of road that runs parallel to a separate railroad section used by the Russian military to transport tanks and supplies. Russia said the blast, caused by a bomb smuggled onto a truck in October 2022, caused many roadways to fall into the water. If the bridge is permanently compromised, Moscow will have to transport military supplies overland through occupied southern Ukraine. The route would pass through the provinces of Kherson and Zaporizhia, which Russia partially seized in the spring of 2022. Ukrainian officials believe this would significantly weaken the Kremlin's ability to launch an offensive at a time when its ground forces are advancing. Zelensky has repeatedly asked Berlin for the long-range Taurus missile system, while officials say Western weapons would allow Ukraine to destroy the bridge faster. German Chancellor Olaf